the smaller ones that have started with the National Center many years ago.
The National Cine.
The National
I like
Cine. The National
you changed
Center.
our name. Hey everybody, welcome to the Native Edge podcast. I'm Chris James. I'm here with my coworker and talented coworker, I should say, Yvette Fielder.
Yvette Fielder. Hi, everybody. So welcome to the Native Edge podcast.
Native Edge podcast.
Series number 1.
Episode 1. That's pretty amazing. Awesome. Yeah. What are we doing here? Let's talk about this podcast. What are some of your expectations on the podcast?
Well, I think people, they really like to engage with, what's happening, what's in the now, what's happening, what's going on, especially in our line of work across Indian country and even into Canada now. A lot of importing, exporting ideas coming in and out both ways. And so people want to know what's happening, what is the National Center doing, how are we creating these things, and how can we be relevant in their life, in their work that they're doing? How can we bring resources to them?
I think you mentioned our brothers and sisters from Canada. It was so great to have the Canadian delegation. Just a few weeks ago, we had, 12, 13 different businesses come into the National Center?
Yeah, absolutely. And they have a lot of great questions. It's really exciting because I don't think the National Center has really had that footprint in the years past, but we have recently with our export program in the last 3 years. And so now there's also the inquiry of the importing. And so a lot of questions generated there. And of course, anytime there's a question, we always want to help them, and if we don't have the answer, we have so many friends and partners and resources available, plethora of SBA and MBDA and all the players.
I love the word a plethora. That's such a plethora of information. One thing about you had mentioned imports into the United States. Of course, the National Center already has an existing program, so more to come, right, on possibly a new program here that we may launch.
Well, the other thing recently that that the National Center historically did not actively engage with was workforce development. And so, when Chris James says jump, I say how high. And so we quickly put together an idea and we created a career fair, and we worked with the Fort Mojave tribe here in Arizona. They're in a tri-state area of Arizona, California, and Nevada, and they were very excited. And I think as a result of that career fair, they had about 7 direct hires that day. Wow. Yep. And we included the Laughlin area employers in that with the state of Arizona workforce development. So it was a really great event and a first time that the National Center has really done that. So with importing, I can only imagine that we're going to do something similar. We just ask the questions, find the right people, and we can partner together and really create something awesome.
What's cool about, you mentioned that workforce development is so important in our communities because, there's multiple aspects of it, but sometimes it's just that path forward. Like where do I, I see all these opportunities, but how do I get to those opportunities, or who do I talk to? Even what does my resume need to look like? At Res 2024, we also had a workforce development piece. And so that's something too. In the future, we're going to talk about. One of Yvette's jobs is to develop all of these cool programs, take them and run. So one of the programs that we developed together back in the day was called Native Edge Institute. How many of these Native Edge Institutes have we done?
Oh my gosh. I want to say maybe 30 or more?
60.
60? Has it been 60? See, we just keep rolling them in and
growing.
out.
Yeah, I think 60 because we started in 2018. Our very first one was in Seattle. I think it was 2018, 2019. We did it at Microsoft. We had about 50 attendees, and we just went crazy after that. Crazy in a good way.
Absolutely.
For the National Center, it's one of our, of course, Res is one of our core programs, but this is a program where we are almost doing an event every month. What are these events all about?
So, to help engage the local community, and they're smaller, intimate events, 50 to 100 people on site. And then we have a following of people that want to watch us and view the live webinar. So of course, we've always had that incorporated. And really it allows people to really engage with our speakers and ask a lot of really awesome questions and get those questions answered, as well as the small little roundtable discussions afterward. It provides a lot of networking opportunity, more questions, partnerships, people to shake hands and really get to know each other where they didn't really know each other before.
Yeah.
Recently, when we were in Atmore, Alabama, the local community came out and they took us on a tour of their community to let the local smaller towns that are on the outskirts of Atmore, Alabama, to know what those procurement opportunities are within the Native community as well.
Yeah.
Because they have the Wind Creek Casino and Hotel, they have a new hospital, they have a fire department, they're building houses, so there's a lot of construction opportunity. And the local towns didn't really know that they could work with the tribe, and so when we bring this information out to the local communities, it really engages each other for partnerships and continued growth. And of course, they all live and work and play together in their local communities, just like we do in our communities. Yeah. And getting to know each other at that level is really beneficial, I think, for people to really have that feel and sense of, togetherness and unity.
Yeah.
Strength and unity.
Strength
just
and
like
unity.
Res.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, I love the strength and unity. And I do think that those events do bring people together. We try to pick areas that's drivable so people can drive in for, maybe 3 hours or less. Or definitely we try to use all of our tribal facilities if we can, if there's one in the area. And then there's also option if people want to fly into a destination. So if there is we have people that doesn't matter where we have an event. We have people come from Arizona or California. They really just to get the knowledge share that we provide and that networking experience. I think that's so key. And one of the things you touched on, which I love about Native Edge Institutes, are the roundtables. I mean, that's one of my favorite parts about the institutes. You have this opportunity to talk to those leaders in a round table fashion. So that's really awesome that you emphasize that. So looking forward to another season.
Absolutely.
Are we calling it a season?
It is. Well, yeah. It could be a season.
Season of Native Edge. Episode 1, season, multiple seasons. Season 6 of Native Edge Institutes.
And there's so many topics, of course. Yeah. But we have touched on Native Edge workforce, Native Edge business matchmaking, the Native Edge trainings within itself for business and workforce and economic development. What else? Import, exporting, leadership, some of those other topics of the procurement, and hundreds of topics that we have covered.
Like a litmus of plethora.
Yeah. But
I mean, your word plethora.
The Native Edge.
It's the Native Edge. It's on edge.
It is, because economic development means all of those things.
Yeah. That's what it is. And having those just open discussions, bringing in the right people to talk about them, I think is so key to that knowledge share. I mean, that's what I love the word knowledge share, because it's not always just sitting in a room, receiving the knowledge. It's like you're also part of the conversation and sharing the knowledge as well.
And I love it when I hear of a company coming in, they've never been to a Native Edge. We recently had this again in Oregon, and they develop, and as a result of it, they go after a contract, and then as a result of that, they get to hire 50, 100 new employees, that kind of thing. And then they come back and they tell you, like, hey, this past year, this is what I've done, and thank you because you gave me the strength and courage to just go after it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they sit on their hand, they have so much information, and sometimes it's just at their fingertips, and it's just that little bit of encouragement that then they want to go pursue that.
Well, a lot of times we use the word empowerment. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
Empowerment to me, I think it's part of that, just the encouragement that you can receive from someone that sees that in you. And it just may be 1 or 2 words or a short conversation, and it has empowered you to take the next step, to not be afraid. Because really it's our own fear that kind of prevents us sometimes, right?
Well, I think it's fear that you can't get to your next level because you hold yourself back. A lot of times, your worst enemy is looking back at you in the mirror. And I think empowerment can come from others. but sometimes you just can empower yourself, light a fire for whatever reason. So I think these trainings and the work that we do at the National Center, it's all around empowerment and making sure that our businesses have a voice and that our clients that we work with, we're there to support them in their needs.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier and we said, the peak of the eclipse might have only been 4 minutes, but Native Edge has been around. We're going into our 7th year, and so it's lasting and it's moving forward, and it's really gained traction and footing, I think, in Indian country. And a lot of people have said, "Oh, I've seen you on those trainings." When you pass them at Res.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, so you've done some great work. A lot of great work with the Native Edge Institutes. I look forward to seeing what's next out of your Office of Business Development. I'm sure we're looking at various other programs that we're going to launch. We talked about the import program. Let's switch gears a little bit. One of the great relationships that you have is with the United States Small Business Administration. And before we talk about the U.S.
Yeah, the U.S. It is the U.S. Small Business Administration.
Yes. Before we talk about SBA, I think we have a quick clip of the administrator talking at Res 2024. Michaela, can you run that clip?
Common comment I hear is, I wish I had known about SBA earlier in my journey, to have learned some of the lessons from your advisors, from your lenders, to get funded earlier. And SBA has created some of the most iconic brands, helped create some of the most iconic brands. I mean, the Sweet Green founder will tell you that he wouldn't have started if it wouldn't have been without an SBA micro loan from Latino EDC in DC. And truly, a transformational national business. Jenny's Ice Cream in Ohio started with the small dollar $65,000 SBA loan, over 30 years ago, and has built her ice cream shops to over 35 ice cream shops around the country. But it's also been innovators that we've funded, like Qualcomm, 23andMe, scalable companies like Tesla, Federal Express. The founder of Federal Express will tell you that nobody funded him except for SBA with our small business investment companies. And so this is a powerful vehicle.
So the administrator, she's such a great advocate, by the way, for small businesses, and she's been a friend to the National Center for many years. She spoke at every one of the reses, and she came on board, and she touched base, sort of gave an overview of what SBA does. You've been working really closely with Jackson Brasi at the Office of Native American Affairs. What are some of your thoughts on SBA?
Well, one, Jackson is amazing. I've run into him almost everywhere I go. He's there. And it's really funny and hilarious sometimes because it's like we'll see each other way down the hallway and it's like, there you are. What are you doing here?
That was so amazing.
But Administrator Guzman, she touched on a lot of points, especially about access to capital. And that is one thing that we do get a lot of calls on all the time. Small businesses, they need to scale up and they need that extra seed money or bonding money. Or they need to learn about investments, So, of course, as times change, things change all the time. The landscape's always changing. You have to stay relevant. And we do look to our partners like SBA to help us, understand the different changes that are coming up. And what I really liked about meeting her at Res was she was very interested in going on the trade show floor and really talking to the businesses. And I know she talked with Andy Wells, one of our longtime clients, and Andy has even, done so much for his community in Minnesota, besides being a successful small business owner and then turning into other things as far as education and kind of almost even acting as a nonprofit in some ways, really has a passion for hiring those that have that, gap in employment and really providing them some training so that they can really have a livable wage and an earning to support their family. So she was able to talk with Mr. Wells. She stopped in and talked with Sacred Path. And they have a really unique structure, especially for those tribes on the borders with their unique enhanced ID card that is like a passport. So they're making a lot of gains. That's a Pascal Yaqui tribe. And so I really liked how she wanted to engage with all the small businesses on the trade show floor, meet them, get to know them, find out what they're doing, and then also meet the artists in the art market and, learn about them, learn about their work, and spoke with one of our artists, and they're working with Ralph Lauren and that kind of thing. And so realizing that even our artists, they're doing big things. We had the fashion show and everything. And so there's so much opportunity and all these creative minds, these entrepreneurial mindsets. That's what's so important. Kind of what sets some people apart from others, because they have to be risk takers in some ways. And so I really appreciated her really engaging with our small businesses and wanting to get to know who they were, and then taking the walk on the floor and meeting them.
Everybody's engaged. There's a big crowd around her as we walk through. We, of course, have our cameras with her as well. The Icona Group with doing the work that they do with John Deere and the stuff that they're exporting. But yes, you mentioned the artisans. I think that Ralph Lauren, the artisan that had the contract with Ralph Lauren and the products that they were featuring, I think everybody was like, wow, check that out. It really shows how sophisticated our companies are. And I think the companies that you named too, you named a manufacturer, you named a tribe, you named a lot of some others that are just to the next level, really. And I think if we talk to every one of those people you named, I think at some point they will say, hey, the National Center was right there with us. That they sort of helped us out to get to where we are. And I really think part of that is leaders like you, and providing the work, providing the opportunity for the businesses to do these trainings and contracts and all that stuff we do.
Absolutely. And even the smaller ones that have started with the National Center many years ago.
The National Center.
The National Center.
Our name.
We should look that up. There
what
should
is
be
the
another
National
little
Cine?
tagline or something.
Yeah. Welcome to the National Cine. We have
Cine.
changed the name.
Nationals. Yeah. No, I mean,
Sorry.
starting small and like the Ho Chunk Pavilion.
Yeah.
And how incredible that was.
Yep.
And really appreciate like them coming back to Res and supporting us when maybe they've outgrown our services in a lot of ways, right?
Yep.
But yet they're still there, they're participating, and we really appreciate that long-term relationship and support over the years.
Yep.
Because, and I know they were around many years ago in the early 90s, but here they were again.
Yvette, I think, Michaela, do we have a small clip to run of Lance and Yvette's interview from Ho Chunk? Let's run that clip.
We have divisions. Government contracting is probably our biggest division. We have a large real estate development company. We have a local division that includes manufacturing of tobacco products, farming, stores, retail, distribution. We focus our attention on profitable business relationships off reservation, and then we try to take care of our own on the reservation.
So that was from your interview with Lance, and it was pretty amazing. Just talk a little bit more. I know he had mentioned a few things about the work they do, but he directly associated some of the work they did with the National Center.
Yeah, he's been around a long time, of course, and I think started out, as he said, Ho Chunk Inc. in his apartment, kind of like Mel McGee, a one-person starting up their tribal enterprise and taking advantage of the 8A program, and then building that, and then creating another arm and another enterprise and another small business, and then taking the tour of their community and what they've done as far as their housing. The elderly housing that we toured was incredible. Their farming operation, we went out there as well. And then in town, they have a building in town with their name on top, at the very top. Toured their marketing facility there, and they have a really nice setup. Not as humble as ours here at the Native Edge.
Our setup is awesome. Though. It's so awesome. We don't have our name on the building.
8-10-story building.
Well, we have all those stickers.
We have a lot of stickers.
We do have a lot, and our logo is very cool.
Yeah.
We
yeah,
do have the
definitely.
logo with stickers everywhere. And our logo, that's one of the things about the National Center. We do like to put our logo everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like in Minnesota too,
Yeah.
when we interviewed Melissa Darden. Excuse me, Melissa Darden as well, right?
Yeah, Melissa Darden.
Everybody.
Yeah, Melissa's in Louisiana.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The Millax.
Yes.
Benjamin.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes.
And, learned about their enterprise. They're also involved in the 8A program, doing some international work, reinvesting in their communities, growing and thinking of new ways of how they can pivot and continue to grow and have sustainability. I think that's an important thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing out of all the native edges we do. I mean, yeah, we have done probably half of our native edges. Half of the native edge institutes are in urban areas, but also going out into the community is so important. And a couple of the places you've been, I mean, from, like you said, Alaska to all the way down into Florida to up to Maine. I mean, seeing those areas, being part of those areas, talking with the community is so important because, again, it highlights the diversity of our communities. There was one really cool place you went here in Arizona not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, some of the housing projects that you visited.
We were in Pascal Yaki's community outside of Tucson, and as well, they're building some housing projects there. And they're part of the Sacred Path that I mentioned earlier, and that's one of their enterprises. And a small community, but a very close-knit community, of course. And really wonderful to see so much growth in all these communities. Everywhere we go, I'm always amazed to learn about how they're reinvesting in their community for education, higher education, internship programs, the housing, jobs and job creation. And that's a huge one, of course, the job creation itself, and sustainable, livable wages.
Yeah. One of the things that I think you do very well, or all of our team members do very well, we all get emails or people reach out to us and they say, hey, how do I support Indian country? If someone's asking, maybe they're listening to this and they're like, well, how do I get involved? I mean, what is your advice to people? What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, obviously, what are they passionate about? Mm-hmm. What are they truly passionate about? And of course, we're the premier organization for business and economic development.
The premier.
Yes. And so, they can support the National Center. And this helps bringing our programs to their community.
Yeah.
And we make it a fun, full day. We work through lunch. We always have a lunch panel. We feed you while we're there. We don't want to lose anybody and make it a boring thing or have anybody go away. And people have said that on our surveys, like they really enjoyed the day. It was fast paced, a lot of information coming at them, but they really liked it again because they could really engage with each other. And that has really helped them and encouraged them and didn't know. And sometimes they don't feel comfortable going to some of our resources. You've changed that path.
Yeah.
You
know what? I like what you said about every dollar because one of the coolest statistics we have at the National Center, and maybe I say this too much, but we're almost at 80% of every dollar that we make goes back into our programs. And I don't know if people really understand as a nonprofit organization, we have to raise every dime. That's either from a grant that we write, and gosh, you're an expert at that. I mean, you have 3 or 4 grants that you're
And we
juggling
compete,
with the team and compete. And that's at a res. I mean, the people every time you buy a ticket at res, that's helping us support our communities, and I think that's so critical. And I was thinking too about the question about when people ask me, like, how do I get involved? One of the things is, volunteer at res. That's an easy one, and you can come for free there. I think also, we historically have had interns work here. So
We have.
I think, every summer, we want to have interns to come in. But even if you just want to come in and hang out with us, I know that sounds funny to say, just come in and hang out. But I mean, I'm really genuine about that. I mean, we actually, here in our building, I mean, we are truly a national center. We have us Titan facilities, an 8A small business that's in the building. We have who else is here in our building?
3 affiliated was here previously.
Historically they were here. Unity
is here.
Is here. So if you ever are in the greater Phoenix area and you just want to come hang out with us, just reach out to us. You can get our contact information on the website and say, hey, I'd like to stop by, see what you guys do. We love to have guests.
We
That's
do.
for sure.
And it's really easy. It's right off the 60 in Stapley.
Yeah.
Some cool places to eat around here, too.
Since this is a national website, it's just right off the Stapley and 60.
Yeah.
Easy to find. Let's switch gears a little bit because we talked about a lot of stuff, what we do. Another thing, the core of what we do is support small businesses. That's tribal enterprises, that's tribes that are wanting to build an enterprise or help with their existing, and that's the small business to the medium-sized business. When you do a lot of one-on-one support for small businesses, what do you think is the number one challenge for those businesses? And then you answer, and then I'll also answer.
Well, I think twofold, of course, because one, there's always access to capital that they need, whether they're going after a new bid or they just need to scale up or they need to hire additional staff to really be able to do those things. Mm-hmm. But 2, advocacy is what I was going to say, in that, you've done some of the advocacy work. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to turn the table on you a little bit and tell us about how the National Center has participated in those conversations to help small businesses grow.
Well, I think you're right on with the word advocacy. And I do think, and I repeatedly will always say, we all can be advocates. If that's in our own community, if that's on a national level, state level, if we don't use our voices, then someone else is going to use our voice for us, and someone else is going to make decisions without our input. So that's why I think the National Center is very involved with advocacy, because if it's not us, sometimes no one is at the table. And we're lucky that we are part of multiple boards around the country. Aaron Abrahamson's part of a Federal Reserve bank out of San Francisco advisory board. I'm on a United States Trade Representative board, as well as an SBA board, and historically an FCC board, plus all our teams on multiple boards throughout Indian country. I think that's so important because, a lot of times being part of these boards and being part of that conversation, we're able to be that voice that oftentimes our small business don't have.
And we're always getting challenged in Indian country.
There's a big challenge going on. And I ask the administrator of SBA, we'll go back to her. I asked the SBA administrator about some of those challenges. Michaela, let's run that clip.
Well, I mean, we're seeing that the selection of judges matters, right? The 8A program has been under attack for 4 decades. There are multiple court cases that have come forward. With the Supreme Court's decision in the education realm with the Harvard case, disallowing racial preference, that really changed the outcome of cases. So there was an Ultima case that was decided in the Sixth Circuit. Actually, it's not decided yet, but there was an injunction put against the agency, both USDA and SBA, stopping the 8A program in effect, and building off of this Supreme Court case. And the administration has been very clear that we don't want to go backward. We want to ensure that we celebrate the diversity of this nation, that is our strength. That is what's going to make us more globally competitive, and that is what our economy depends on for job creation, especially when we're seeing rates of entrepreneurship so high amongst women and people of color. So we are ensuring that we can continue to deliver this highly impactful program.
So you can see, the SBA, I think, had a great answer about some of the challenges that are happening now. I mean, our programs are being under attack, and one of the programs that you are part of, your office is part of, is the MBDA program. And just recently, they were sued, and that trickles down. Trickles down to us as well. What do you think? Just again, this is just some personal view. What do you think are some of the solutions on how our businesses can navigate some of these tricky, things that are going on?
It's really challenging because, of course, Native Americans are always having to prove who we are, that kind of thing. And even in the formal programs of certifications, woman-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned or veteran-owned, the 8A program all in whole of itself, of course. And then, of course, you have the tribal enterprises that can participate in the 8A program. So it's really difficult, I think, because one, we have to prove who we are, and maybe another minority group doesn't have to prove who they are. They can just say who they are. And so that's like a really unique situation there. And I think also, it goes back to the treaties, of course, and how, the federal government has interacted with tribes and communities. And it's just an ongoing, constant, I think, and in Indian country. And it goes back to that. And also that, we have to, again, have the advocacy. But what's great is that tribes have really scaled up. They have a team, a lot of them have their own attorneys on staff, to advocate for them when these challenges come up. And it's just been an ongoing thing, I think,
Yeah. And I think, our communities are sovereign communities. And that is something that when our businesses get attacked, it attacks our sovereignty, especially our tribally owned businesses. Individuals as well. I mean, there are trust responsibilities for our communities, and the federal government has set up, and like you said, the treaties, but it is a responsibility. And I think that, again, like you said, it goes right back to the advocacy. If we are not voicing these concerns to Congress, to the federal government, people are going to constantly attack us. And the 8A program's been under attack. MBDA has now been under attack. Our colleges are under attack. And all of those attacks will continue, but we need to fight it by having that voice and voicing to Congress and saying, hey, it is your responsibility to support our communities.
It is. It's almost like, and I'm not an attorney, obviously.
But I am not an attorney, obviously, too. We are not attorneys.
We're not attorneys.
We're not going to give any advice on that.
But it's like, here we are still having to prove who we are, and I mean, that costs a lot of money, even for the communities when this happens. And it's sad because they're taken away from maybe a program that they had an idea to have that funding to go through, but instead now they're having to be in court and battle and do all these things, of course. And so it's like the federal government, it's almost like you're breaking your own rule here because you have the trust responsibility, but now you're saying, no, you have to prove again who you are. And so now we're going to go after these agencies that support our programs.
I think Michaela's our great producer, by the way. You should give Michaela, say hi to the audience, Michaela.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Michaela, I think we do have a clip that we could run on a legal panel that we did at Res 2024. So could we run that clip?
It's not a coincidence that these attacks have ramped up in recent years. There is a plaintiff's bar out there, attorneys in big firms, and I'm not afraid to name it. Gibson Dunn is a big firm out of LA with former Solicitor Generals as part of their appellate practice, and they are targeting tribes. They are targeting groups that they think have a preference, and they're getting an unfair advantage, and they're specifically wanting to bring equal protection cases because they think they have a sympathetic audience in the Supreme Court. And we've seen it in the affirmative action cases. We've seen it with other type challenges to anything that is a preference. Of course, as we all know, tribal preferences, ANC, those are not racial preferences. Tribes, through their long history of treaty making and the government-to-government relationships, we as attorneys have fought long and hard to make sure that's a political relationship that Congress is free to amend if they think it's not working, but they don't do it because it is working. But everybody should be aware that there is a bullseye on us for exactly that purpose.
So the cool thing about that panel that we did at Res, those are giving, they're not giving legal advice, by the way. They are, but as lawyers, they sort of study this. So I think it was a really good panel that they laid out some of the challenges. So I'm glad that we were able to show a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're probably about out at time. What more do you want to say today? What's in your heart
just
today?
look out for us, guys. Join the podcast, get involved. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and give us a call or send an email and ask questions. We'd like that. Look out for the next Native Edge Institute. There's one coming near you, I'm sure. In Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and then we have a whole lineup coming up, and we're all over the United States and now getting into Canada.
Yes, and if you want one of us to come to your community to maybe speak at your conference, we do have an area on our website, www.ncaied.org. Ask for a speaker, and one of us will rush to your community. We will be there. We support you. We work for you, and we are honored to be part of Indian Country. Yvette, you are awesome. Thank you for joining this first. I hope
Native
not
Edge
last
podcast.
I hope this is number one. I hope we'll be at episode 100 having the same probably wouldn't be the same conversation, but a conversation as well. So thank you so much for being so cool.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See you next time on The Native Edge.